Yo, what is good, guys? Welcome back. Another video where today we are going to be speaking about the UCL Matchday 2 games, and we will be predicting them as well. So let's get straight into the first one. We have Union Berlin versus Braga. This should be a not bad game. And let's start off with Union Berlin, the underrated team, in my opinion. And they did well in the Europa League last year. They lost 1-0 to Real Madrid in the first game of the Champions League, actually. And it's been a while since they've been in the Champions League as well. On to Braga. I don't know much about this team, but they did have a decent game against Napoli, but that game ended 2-1. And they had some like decent quality on their squad. So overall, my prediction is gonna be a 1-1 draw between the two. Now we have Salzburg versus Real Sociedad. Now this should be a interesting game. So let's start with Salzburg, a pretty good team, to be fair, underrated as well. They beat Benfica 2-0 in their first game of the Champions League. And I swear a lot of talent comes from Salzburg. And onto Real Sociedad. I would say they're an underrated team. They actually placed in third, I believe, last season in the La Liga. That is impressive. And David Silva is back in the Champions League again with them. And they drew 1-1 versus Inter. And I'm excited to see what happens in this game. But my prediction, personally, I think it's going to be a 2-1 win for Sociedad. Now we have Inter versus Benfica. This is a exciting one, in my opinion. So let's start with Inter. They are a good team. They made it into the final last season and they lost, which was unfortunate. And they are actually top of the Serie A as well. And on to Benfica. They aren't too bad this year as well. A lot of their stars did leave. For example, like Gonzalo Ramos. And they lost to Salzburg 2-0 earlier. I think they will struggle probably in this competition. But overall, I think it's going to be a 3-1 win for Inter. And we move on to PSV versus Sevilla. Looking forward to this match. So let's start with PSV. Still a not bad team, but they did lose quite a few players. Those are like Xavi Simons and Nyakpo. I don't think they will be the same kind of team. But on to Sevilla, a pretty good team, to be fair. The Europa League title holders, and they drew against Lens in the first group stage game, and no one expected them, honestly, to win the Europa League. It was very impressive because they were low in the league, in the La Liga, and they just came out and won the final. So my prediction is going to be 2-1 win for Sevilla. Now we go on to Copenhagen versus Bayern. I'm kind of feeling like it's going to be a destruction for Bayern. They're going to destroy Copenhagen, in my opinion. So let's start off with Copenhagen. They are a pretty underrated team. Drew 2-2 with Galatasaray. A not bad result, to be fair. And I do think they could do well in the Champions League, but we have to find out with time. We'll see. On to Bayern. They look very strong. Their game against Man United was not bad, and it ended 4-3. They nearly choked the lead they had, and Kane is doing, I mean, he's balling. in this Bayern team. Obviously, it's filled with quality. My prediction is going to be a 4-0 win for Bayern. And we move on to Manchester United versus Galatasaray. It's going to be a good game, so let's start with Man United. They struggled a bit overall, I would say, in the Premier League, also in the Champions League a bit. And Rashford has been kind of off his game a bit. He's been like he had a one-on-one one time, but there was a player across the box free, but he decided to shoot it, so pretty selfish of him. And Hoyland looks pretty good, and he just needs time in this team, and eventually he'll get the goal scoring. He'll get a lot of goals, I think, and he got beat 4-3 by Bayern, as I mentioned, and onto Galatasaray. A not bad team. The front three doesn't seem to be doing too well. They did make a comeback against Copenhagen, and they could do okay in the Champions League as well. But overall, I think this is going to be a 3-1 win for Manchester United. Now we have a very good matchup here. Let's start with Napoli. This game's going to be incredible. Napoli versus Real Madrid. I'm surprised, like, they surprised everyone last season. Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia, I think his name is, and they were playing insane. They got fairly far in the tournament, and I wonder how they will do this season. On to Real Madrid, we all know how good this team is. They have quality all over the pitch. And they did sign Jude Bellingham from Dortmund, which is a huge signing, and he's been balling for them as well. This team could make a comeback at any time. We saw that in the City versus Real Madrid game in the semis, I believe, 2 years ago. It was, I mean, what can I say? What a comeback. But my prediction between these two teams, it's going to be like a 2-2 draw. And we move on to Lens versus Arsenal. It should be a not bad game, so let's start with Lens. Fairly okay team, honestly. They did do well last season in the League One. They did actually finish third place. That is very impressive for me. Onto Arsenal, they're playing well so far in the Champions League, and this obviously the team that I support. Trossard has been a bargain signing in my opinion. Just what a signing for us. Jesus and Martinelli obviously doing well in the attack as well. And my prediction is going to be a 3-1 win for Arsenal. Now we move on to Atletico Madrid versus Feyenoord. Now let's start with Atletico Madrid. Surprisingly, they are fairly good. Simeone loves parking the bus. It's like almost his favorite thing to do. And I don't think they will make it through personally. They drew 1-1 to Lazio in their first game. And onto Feyenoord, they were underrated last season. They did pretty well in the Europa League, and I would say they're a pretty good team. And this matchup could be tough for them, but I think it's going to end up in a 2-1 win for Atletico Madrid. Now we move on to Antwerp versus Shakhtar. Not the most entertaining match, but let's start with Antwerp, a not bad team to be fair. They got smoked though, 5-0 by Barca in their first game of the Champions League, and I feel like they will struggle a bit unless they come up with something and they surprise us. So on to Shakhtar, a not bad team as well. Under De Zerbi, they were pretty good. I believe they did beat Real Madrid when De Zerbi was there, and they did lose Mudryk to Chelsea as well. They lost 3-1 to Porto. in their first Champions League game as well this season. But I think they will get a 2-1 win here uh, at with Shakhtar. And we move on to Sperna Zvezda versus Young Boys. Hopefully I said that right. And another not too bad game. So let's start with Sperna Zvezda, known in the past as Red Star Belgrade. I believe that's how you say it. And they played Man City in their first game. Now that's a very tough game to play as your first Champions League game this season. But they lost 3-1 to Man City. Tough one onto Young Boys, a Swiss team that's pretty decent. I would say they aren't too good. Personally, I could see them surprise us at any time. And let's see what they could do. But my prediction is going to be a 2-1 win for Young Boys. And we move on to Dortmund versus AC Milan. This will be a good game for sure. Let's start with Dortmund. They have a not bad squad. They did lose Jude, who is a huge player. And I would say they are fairly underrated. Onto AC Milan, they have a good squad on their hands. They drew 0-0 or 0-0 if you want to say it against Newcastle, and they did fairly decent last season in the Champions League. But I think Milan win this game 2-1. And we move on to probably the biggest game this week for the Champions League. And it's Newcastle versus PSG. Now let's start with Newcastle. They kind of dropped off a bit in terms of form, but they got back into form recently, I believe, in the past 2 games or so. And he's been playing so good for the team. Onto PSG, they've been playing well. The team plays different, I've heard as well. And they managed to beat Dortmund 2-0. And they could do not bad. Maybe they could make it far this season. We have to wait, honestly, to see. And my prediction is going to be a 2-2 draw between these two sides. And we have Leipzig versus Manchester City, a not bad game, honestly. Let's start with Leipzig. They probably won't be as good due to them losing Nkunku, Sabolasai, and also Guardiol. Basically, all their star players have left onto Manchester City. They're such a good team. Treble winners from last season. And Haaland is such a key player for them. And they lost to Wolves 2-1 in the Premier League, which is, wow, that's surprising. My prediction is going to be a 3-1 win for Manchester City. And we move on to Porto versus Barca. Now, another game that has potential to be good here. Let's start with Porto. Underrated team, in my opinion. They did beat Shakhtar 3-1 in their first game, and they have a chance at making it out of the group. They have Taremi as their striker, who is really good as a striker, I would say, at scoring those goals. Onto Barca. This team is balling so far. Lamine Yamal is such a good youngster. This guy's like 16. He's still in school, basically, and team is looking very good. And they beat Antwerp 5-0 in their last Champions League game. But I see this game being a 4-2 win for Barcelona. We move on to the last game of the week. We have Celtic versus Lazio, and this could be a tight one. So let's start with Celtic. I heard they are doing well. They did lose, though, against Feyenoord 2-0 in their first game, and they lost a key player in Jota to the Saudi League. And onto Lazio, I would say they're okay, struggling in the Serie A, though. and they sit in 15th place, and they drew 1-1 in their first game this season in the Champions League against Atletico Madrid. But I see Celtic winning this game 2-1. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. And don't forget to drop a like. Comment down below your predictions. And don't forget to subscribe as well. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.